Hey everyone, welcome back to 996. The Howl. The draft is finally over. If this was your first NHL draft, how did you like it? It was a bit crazy, especially yesterday with that huge trade by Utah, but all the picks are said and done. Next up, it doesn't end there. Next up, we got free agency July 1st. That's going to be a hectic day as well. So let's just review the draft and move forward with some more NHL news, trades, and movement. Altogether, Utah drafted 11 players. Iginla and Baudouin are not listed here. They each had their separate videos on Friday night. Iginla's listed as a winger. Some people say, oh, he might be center. Just for the sake of sanity, just think of him as a winger. And if he becomes a center, then that's great. Don't have your expectations he's going to be a centerman and then he shifts to wing and then you're disappointed. Usually when people aren't sure one way or another in the NHL, they'll probably move to the wing position, but you never know. He might be a center as well. But, Aguilar's the only winger here. Baudouin was a centerman, and we got 4 centermen and 5 defensemen. 6 defensemen chosen. So 6 defensemen, 5 forwards, 4 draft picks. This is like unprecedented to have 2 first-round picks, make a huge purchasing trade to buy Mikhail Sergachev, and have 11 selections. It's like they're doing both things at once. Building a prospect pool with a lot of draft picks and quality draft picks with 2 first-round picks, and also acquiring potentially Norris caliber defensemen. So they're doing both things at once, which is pretty unprecedented. Usually when you make a big splash in a trade, in a hockey trade, you don't have many draft selections or high quality draft picks. So that's good for Utah. No goalies were drafted this year. They drafted 3 goalies last year, so maybe they're happy with their development, and we got to see how they progress in the coming season. So let's get into it. We had 1 second-round pick, 2 thirds, 2 fourths, 2 fifths, and 2 sixth-round picks. The first one after Baudouin in the second round was Skahan. Whenever I look at this name, I think Shakan, or I write down Shakan. I mix up the H and the K. 6'4", 216 pounds defenseman, committed to Boston College in the NCAA. Look at all these heights. Folks, it's not a meme anymore. Bill Armstrong will only be interested in you if you're over 6 feet tall. He's a size king. I get some little draft blurbs here. He's a big hitter. Skahan is. He's got a long stick, clears the front of his net, and he plays with that intensity and battle factor. He's that defensive defenseman at 18 years old. So you know already that Bill Armstrong drafts for culture, intensity, playing hockey the hard way. It's not all flash that Bill Armstrong likes. I wonder sometimes if Bill Armstrong would have even drafted Clayton Keller because he's under 6 feet tall, because he plays with flash. His intensity could be a bit better. Even a guy like Schmaltz, I don't think he would ever acquire a player like Nick Schmaltz. Obviously, the previous GM traded for Schmaltz. Next, we go to Thomas Lavoie. Skahan's first name is Will, so Will Skahan. Then we go to Thomas Lavoie, another defenseman, 18 years old, 6'4", 223 pounds, playing in the QMJHL, Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. This to me is like that Lavoie replacement. They didn't end up signing Lavoie to a contract, and then they go back in the draft and sign a defenseman they like more than Lavoie, more size, more physicality, more defensively minded than Lavoie, even though I liked Lavoie. So Lavoie, he's got a long reach, great mobility. Players avoid his side when coming down the ice because he covers so much space and area. Another defensive defenseman. So, the point of the draft is to throw as many darts as you can at the board, and hopefully one of these big, tall defensive defensemen will help you and solidify your defensive pool. Already we got tall giants like Lamoureux and Simashev, and then you have these big, tall giants as well. Then we go to VT Vasin, 18 years old, two-way defenseman, 6'1", 187 pounds, plays in Finland. People say he's got good gap control. He recovers pucks quickly, and he's also not shy of hitting, even though he's a bit on the smaller end at 6'1", plays in Finland. Then we go to Gregor Bieber, or Bieber. You want to call him Bieber? Call him Bieber. He's Austrian but plays in Sweden. 6'3", 187 pounds. Again, another defensive defenseman at 18 years old. I'm saying 18 years old because there's a couple 20-year-olds here. So overagers in the draft is what we call them. Then we go to Gabe Smith, finally an easy name. 18 years old, a physical forward defensive centerman, 6'4", 207 pounds, plays in the Quebec Junior League. He crashes the net. He's a great tipper. People say his tipping ability is pretty exceptional, extremely physical, and he's got some sneaky skill as well. Then we go to Owen Allard, 20 years old, defensive centerman. So when you're 20 years old, you might jump into the American Hockey League quicker than an 18-year-old player. 6'2", 190 pounds, plays in the Ontario Hockey League for the Sioux Greyhounds. He's got that never-ending motor. He's physical. He's a great battler, and he drives the net. It seems like also Bill Armstrong wants to draft players that play on the inside of the game, not perimeter players like a lot of high-end skill players do. They want people who aren't scared to just drive the net, and their instinct is to drive the net, so you don't have to teach them how to play the right way of hockey. Then we go to Alice Czech, or Sheech, or Sesh, whatever. It's Czechia. These their last names are hard to pronounce, at least as we've seen with Coach or Koch, which is another odd one to say. 6'3", 198 pounds, plays in Czechia, defenseman, plays the body first, and he's 20 years old as well. Then we go to Wojtek Hradic, centerman, 6'4", 201 pounds, also plays in Czechia. He drives the net as well. And then finally, Ludvig Lofton. I love this name, Ludvig. I'm pretty sure that's a boss in like Bloodborne. Utah, the Coyotes, they draft some pretty crazy names. Maverick Lamoureux, Maximilian Zuber, and now Ludvig Lofton joins the club. 18 years old, defenseman, 6'2", 187 pounds, plays in Sweden, even though he's Norwegian. And I think I forgot to mention Bieber is Austrian, but plays in Sweden. So that's it. That's 9 players after the first round, plus Iginla and Baudouin. A great draft, and they're also doing trades as well. This is how rebuilds usually go. You build up from the draft and continue to build from the draft, even though you're starting to compete a bit more. You got to keep both plates spinning as long as you can. Next draft, it drops down to the number of picks they have at 7, which is really low for a Bill Armstrong hockey team. Then jumps back up to 10 in 2026, and then 9 picks in the 2027 draft. So you want to keep above 6 picks at most. Next year's a bit, after all those trades they did for Marino, Sergachev, jumping up with Colorado to get Baudouin, they released a lot of draft picks, but we're still able to draft 11 players, and then 7, 10, and 9. So you got to trust Bill Armstrong. He knows what he likes. He's building a type of culture that's so obvious to see now. You're over 6 feet tall. You're a battler. You play with intensity. You drive the net. You play on the inside. And then hopefully guys like Keller, Michelli, Cooley are those playmaking, skilled, flashy guys. And then you have a Gunther who's like a sniper, sharpshooter. And then you could also grab skill guys in free agency and trades as well. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.